Do you know the danger of visceral fat? Most people view body fat as relatively harmless and merely something we want to banish to look and feel better, but did you know that certain types of dangerous fats that are stored around your organs can also contribute to heart disease, dementia, cancer, depression and many other diseases? What is visceral fat? Visceral fat is technically excess intra-abdominal adipose tissue accumulation. In other words, it's known as a deep fat that's stored further underneath the skin than subcutaneous belly fat. It's a form of gel-like fat that's actually wrapped around major organs, including the liver, pancreas and kidneys. If you have a protruding belly and large waist, that's a clear sign you're storing dangerous visceral fat. While it's most noticeable and pronounced in obese individuals, anyone can have visceral fat, many without even knowing it. Visceral fat is especially dangerous because, as you'll find out, these fat cells do more than just sit there and cause your pants to feel tight. They also change the way your body operates. Visceral fat is considered toxic and spells double trouble in the body because it's capable of provoking inflammatory pathways, plus signaling molecules that can interfere with the body's normal hormonal functions. In fact, it acts almost like its very own organ since it's capable of having such a large impact on the body. Carrying around excess visceral fat is linked with an increased risk for coronary heart disease, cancer, stroke, dementia, diabetes, depression, arthritis, obesity, sexual dysfunction, sleep disorders. How is visceral fat rated and measured? The only way to definitively diagnose visceral fat is with a CT or MRI scan. However, these are expensive and time-consuming procedures. Instead, medical providers will typically use general guidelines to evaluate your visceral fat and the health risks it poses to your body. Harvard Health, for example, says that about 10% of all body fat is visceral fat. If you calculate your total body fat and then take 10% of it, you can estimate your amount of visceral fat. An easy way to tell if you may be at risk is by measuring your waist size. According to Harvard Women's Health Watch and the Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health, if you are a woman and your waist measures 35 inches or larger, you are at risk for health problems from visceral fat. The same Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health article notes that men are at risk for health problems when their waist measures 40 inches or larger. Visceral fat is often evaluated on a scale of 1 to 59 when diagnosed with body fat analyzers or MRI scans. Healthy levels of visceral fat stay under 13. If your rating is 13 to 59, immediate lifestyle changes are recommended. 6 risks of high levels of visceral fat. 1. Increased inflammation. A major concern is that visceral fat produces hormonal and inflammatory molecules that get dumped directly into the liver, leading to even more inflammation and hormone-disrupting reactions. If you have more fat stored than you need, especially around visceral organs like the liver, heart, kidneys, pancreas and intestines, your body becomes inflamed and your metabolism suffers, making it a hard cycle to break out of. Visceral fat does more than just lead to inflammation down the road, it becomes inflamed itself by producing something known as interleukin-6, a type of inflammatory molecule. This kind of fat stores inflammatory white blood cells and kicks off a series of autoimmune reactions. Inflammation is at the root of most diseases, and this is why inflammatory belly fat is linked with cognitive decline, arthritis, diabetes and so on. 2. Higher risk of diabetes. More than other types of fats, visceral fat is thought to play a large role in insulin resistance, which means a heightened risk for developing diabetes. For example, abdominal fat is viewed as a bigger health risk than hip or thigh fat, not only for diabetes but for many other chronic diseases too. Some evidence suggests that pear-shaped women are better protected from metabolic diseases like diabetes compared to big-bellied people. While men are more likely to store noticeable levels of visceral fat, women are definitely at risk, too. Reducing visceral fat through a healthy diet and other means is one of the most important natural diabetes treatments there is that's within your control. 3. Makes it harder to lose weight. People tend to get heavier and heavier as time goes on, and one of the main reasons is that stored body fat affects hunger levels, especially visceral fat. It might seem hard to imagine, but your metabolism is largely governed by your level of existing stored fat. Fat messes with our appetites and makes it easier to overeat due to hormonal changes that take place. Higher levels of insulin also promote more efficient conversion of our calories into body fat, so this vicious cycle continues. Eating refined carbohydrates, as opposed to complex carbohydrates in their natural state like vegetables and fruit, can cause the body's set point for body weight to increase. Your set point is basically the weight that your body tries to maintain through control of the brain's hormonal messengers. When you eat refined carbohydrates such as white flour and sugar, the fat-storing hormones are produced in excess, raising the set point and making it hard to follow a moderate-calorie, healthy diet. This is why it's important to kick your sugar addiction and address weight gain and visceral fat formation early on, as opposed to letting the situation escalate. 4. Higher risk for heart disease and strokes. Fat-generated inflammatory cytokines are the main contributors to heart disease and other inflammatory disorders. When your body is inflamed, your liver becomes overwhelmed with cholesterol and toxins, which leads to plaque buildup in your arteries. Visceral fat is associated with an increased risk for cardiovascular disease markers like high triglycerides, high blood pressure and high cholesterol. 5. More likely to battle dementia. A growing body of evidence points to the fact that there's a strong link between obesity, vascular disease, inflammation and cognitive decline, including dementia. In fact, it seems that excess pounds on the body equates with less brain volume and, therefore, poorer function into older age. Research shows that people with the biggest bellies have a higher risk of dementia than those with smaller bellies. This is even true even for people with excess belly fat but who are overall at a normal weight. The bigger the belly, or a person's waist to hip ratio, the more negative impact felt on the brain's memory center called the hippocampus. In fact, many experts now feel that visceral adipose tissue fat levels rather than BMI should be considered as an important risk factor in the development of dementia. Results from a 2010 study done by the Department of Cardiology at Oita Red Cross Hospital in Japan found that elevated levels of visceral fat in non-dementia patients with type 2 diabetes is characterized by abnormal changes in hippocampus volume and insulin resistance. Other studies have also found that the higher someone's waist-to-hip ratio, the higher the risk for small strokes, which are associated with declining brain function. We still don't know exactly how visceral fat and dementia are linked, but it's believed it has to do with the hormone leptin, which is released by stored fat and has adverse effects on the brain, appetite regulation, learning and memory. Leptin and ghrelin are two of the most hormones to pay attention to in reference to losing weight naturally. 6. Higher likelihood to have depression and mood problems since excess body fat is linked to hormonal changes, including those of serotonin, ghrelin and other brain neurotransmitters. Excess body fat can negatively impact your mood. A 2014 study conducted by Boston University School of Medicine found that depressive symptoms are associated with visceral adiposity in middle-aged adults. To examine the relationship between measures of adiposity, fat, and depression, researchers examined visceral adipose tissue, VAT, and depressive symptoms in 1,581 women, mean age 52.2 years, and 1,718 men, mean age 49.8 years. After adjusting for age, body mass index, smoking, alcohol and other factors, results showed that higher levels of stored VAT translated to higher likelihood of experiencing depression. Like other studies show, VAT is a unique pathogenic fat that consists of metabolically active adipose tissue that interferes with healthy neurotransmitter function. How to get rid of visceral fat? Fortunately, visceral fat is extremely receptive to exercise, diet, and lifestyle changes. With each pound you lose some visceral fat. When possible, you should exercise for at least 30 minutes every day. Make sure to include plenty of both cardio exercises and strength training. Cardio includes aerobic exercise, like circuit training, biking, or running, and will burn fat faster. Strength training will slowly burn more calories over time as your muscles get stronger and consume more energy. Ideally, you'll do 30 minutes of cardio 5 days a week and strength training at least 3 times per week. The stress hormone cortisol can actually increase how much visceral fat your body stores, so reducing the stress in your life will make it easier to lose it. Practice meditation, deep breathing, and stress management tactics. It's also essential to follow a healthy, well-balanced diet. Eliminate processed, high-sugar, high-fat foods from your diet, and include more lean proteins, vegetables, and complex carbs like sweet potatoes, beans, and lentils. Use low-fat cooking methods, such as broiling, boiling, or baking, instead of frying. When you do use oils, go for healthier ones like olive oil instead of butter or peanut oil. Thanks for watching. Like, share and subscribe to my channel. Be healthy.